It is 7:30 on the official town clock behind you, so I'll call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 5th Town Council meeting of the town of Smithfield. If you'll please stand for our invocation.
Bow your heads, please. Our Heavenly Father, we gather here tonight to be about the business of this community. We would ask your hand on these proceedings, that the things we do here that affect the citizenry of Smithfield will be favorable in thy sight. Be with those who are less fortunate than ourselves. Bless them, heal their needs, their wants, their sicknesses. Lift them up with thy spirit. Guide and direct us in all that we do and say. In thy loving memory, we pray this prayer. Amen. Amen.
We have a special group here tonight to lead us in our pledge. I'll ask Wilson Mills Baptist Church Troop, Boy Scout Troop 31 to come forward. And I am going to put all of you on the spot.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Louis Rice. I'm the Scout Master of Boy Scout Troop 31, the Wilson Mills Baptist Church in Smithfield. Our group of boys, this is just a portion of our troop, and we have a community citizenship and community merit badge that they have to work on. Part of the requirement side, they have to attend the town fall council meeting. That's what we're here for, and I'll pass it on, and everybody can introduce themselves.
I'm David Brinkley, Assistant Scout Master.
Luke Dale, Coley.
Corey Longue, first class. And Brinkley, Scout.
Evan Rice, first class.
Richard Harris, assistant controller.
Justin Murphy, second class.
Thank y'all for being here.
And at this time, we're going to lead you in the pledge of allegiance. Troop 31, attention. About face. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Fellow members of the council, you've seen the agenda as it was delivered to you and placed at your place at the table here. Been two additions to the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved. Second.
And Mayor Pro Tem, that is with the addition 7 and 8.
7 and 8.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The agenda has been set. We've got two presentations tonight. The first one is a proclamation recognizing Assistant Fire Chief Elmer Owens. I'll call on Chief Patrick Harris.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members and citizens of Smithfield, what an honor it is to stand here with you today to recognize a gentleman who has served well over 40 years of volunteer service from the North Carolina National Guard to the Civil Defense Rescue of Johnston County and then the Smithfield Fire Department. All the way up through the ranks, responding as a lieutenant, a captain, and then serving his time as an assistant fire chief. Elmer Owens has been there through train derailments, warehouse fires, fatalities, and all the different things that have gone on for the last 40 years. And it's with great honor that I stand here and present him to you and ask you, Mayor Pro Tem, if you would present this proclamation. Everyone, would you come up and join us, please?
I will read this proclamation. It's a proclamation honoring Assistant Fire Chief Elmer L. Owens. Whereas Elmer L. Owens has served the town of Smithfield Fire Department and Johnston County Civil Defense Rescue Squad for over 40 years in numerous capacities, including the past 8 years as Assistant Fire Chief. And whereas these years of service have been marked by exemplary dedication to the best interests of the community, he has worked tirelessly to answer the emergency calls for help by the citizens of this community. And whereas the town of Smithfield has benefited greatly because of his interest in work for the citizens of Smithfield. And whereas through the performance of his duties and responsibilities as a member of the town of Smithfield Fire Department, he has made excellent and constructive contributions to the safety and well-being of all who live and visit the town of Smithfield. And whereas Elmer L. Owens has earned the admiration and high regard of those with whom he has come in contact and of his fellow servants. Now, therefore, I, Emery Ashley, Mayor Pro Tem, on behalf of Wilbert Daniel Evans, Jr., Mayor of the town of Smithfield, along with the members of the town council, express our sincere appreciation and thanks, as well as that of the citizens of the town of Smithfield, to Chief Elmer L. Owens for his distinguished service to this community.
I'd just like to say this has been an honor, a privilege to serve the citizens of the town of Smithfield for these many years. I just hope maybe down the way somewhere I made an impression or left a good feeling for somebody that was in a distressful moment. And I thank the town of Smithfield, and I thank the citizens of Smithfield and the surrounding area for the privilege I've had to serve. And thank you.
Mr. Owens, if I may, one quick story, because you did make a lasting impression on myself and my family. Just about 9 years ago, when my second child was born, the first week he was home from the hospital, we experienced some breathing problems in the middle of the night, and ended up calling 911. And even though at the time we lived just blocks from the fire station, you were the first responder on the scene. And let me tell you, as a frightened parent, it just made me feel so much better and relieved when I saw you standing at my front door when I went to get it. And I just want to thank you for all your years of service, but especially that night. It really made a lasting impression on myself and my family.
The next presentation tonight is Smithfield Police Department's Officer of the Year, and I'll call on Chief Mike Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Council, distinguished guests. Tonight I have the distinct honor of being part of a presentation for Officer of the Year for the Smithfield Police Department. I would ask Detective Blinson to come up and join me here. I would also encourage his family that is here tonight, if anyone wants to take any pictures of this, to feel free to come up and do so at any time. The Police Department recognizes one officer annually as Officer of the Year. This employee is nominated by secret ballot, completed by every member of the Police Department. The officer receiving the most votes is then reviewed by a recognition committee consisting of 4 lieutenants and the patrol commander. The committee then makes a recommendation for the Officer of the Year to the police chief, me. I have the final say to this award. The Officer of the Year for the Smithfield Police Department 2012 is Detective Chris Blinson. I'd like to read a short letter from the District Attorney's Office about Detective Blinson. I received this letter in November. I am writing you to express my utmost appreciation and praise for Detective Chris Blinson and his work in the first-degree murder trial case against Matthew Salentine. Chris's dedication to justice was evident every day throughout the trial and was commented on daily by various court personnel. Thanks primarily to his hard work and thorough investigation, we were able to secure a conviction in this murder case. It is with great joy that I offer this commendation to a very impressive investigator
I truly cannot say enough about the fantastic job you did. Sincerely, Susan Doyle, District Attorney. Mayor Pro Tem, if you would, please.
Chris, I've known you and your family for a fairly long time. On behalf of the town council and myself, I want to thank you very much for your service, and I present you with this plaque.
Council would like to say a little appreciation to you put into the
Come now on the agenda to the public hearings. The first public hearing is CUP 12-11. Town of Smithfield is the applicant. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit to operate a farmer's market on property located within the B3 zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the south side of North Brightleaf Boulevard, approximately 300 feet northeast of its intersection with Hospital Road, and further identified as Johnson County Tax Parcel ID 150060002. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Embler, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. May I start by referencing you on the city map? The location of the proposed farmer market is located on in the old Trot Motel site, immediately across from the Pine Needle Shopping Center near Hospital Drive.
Excuse me, Mr. Ember, before we continue, can I ask if anybody's going to speak, and just, Mr. Ember, just like to swear everybody in, if there's going to be any other contributors or speakers tonight? The clerk tells me we should go ahead and do both public hearings and swear everybody in if that's possible. So the second one is the United Developers application, which is the unit multifamily housing complex, and that's located on West Market Street, located in the B3 district, looking for change of zoning. So both of those two items.
If anybody's here to speak, any of those public hearings, you need to come forward and be sworn down. If you'll, now, Mr. Embler.
Okay. A little bit about the site. It's the old Trot Motel site. It's 3.62 acres. It's currently zoned B3. It's currently vacant and has been for a number of years. The proposed use is the outdoor retail sales of produce and other related farm products. The proposed farmers market will not be located in any environmentally sensitive area. The zoning immediately to the north is B3 Shopping Center. To the south is office and institutional. It is currently vacant. That is not vacant, but it's the immediately behind it. To the east is B3 Restaurant, and to the west is B3 Mini Storage. The town of Smithfield presently sponsors a seasonal farmers market adjacent to the town hall in the town hall park. Visibility, parking, and access are limited at the present location. Due to the downtown location, parking is very limited for vendors who have to resort to unloading their produce in the morning and reloading their trucks and trailers in the evening. During the operating hours, the vendors have to remove their trucks and trailers from the town hall parking lot in order to allow for adequate parking for citizens and customers. By relocating the farmers market to the proposed North Broadleaf Boulevard location, the visibility, access, and parking issues will be greatly improved. Access to the site will be via 2 existing NCDOT approved driveway cuts. A loop drive will connect the 2 site access points and connect to the separate paved parking areas for customers and vendors. Handicap accessible issues will be addressed via handicap parking and portable handicap toilets. Vendors' booth will be housed in tent pavilions that will be provided by the town so that a uniform appearance can be maintained. Fencing and/or landscaping will be provided adjacent to Broadleaf Boulevard so as to separate pedestrian traffic from the vehicular traffic on the boulevard. All signs associated with the farmers market will be permitted as per the Uniform Development Ordinance of the town. And if you will, please, in your packet, refer to Exhibit A for the proposed layout of the farmers market. The town sponsoring the farmers market, the citizens will be afforded the opportunity to purchase locally grown produce from area farmers. This proposal is consistent with the future land use plan for the town, and it's suitable for commercial uses. It's consistent with the Uniform Development Ordinance in that it is a B3 zoning district, and outdoor sales are allowed in the B3 zoning district with a conditional use permit. Compatibility with surrounding land uses, the proposed farmers market will be appropriately located in a commercial corridor. It is unlikely that negative impacts on existing and future surrounding uses will occur. Landscaping and buffering will be minimum landscaping should be planted to include a street yard along Broadleaf Boulevard, and this would be in accordance with the UDA. Signs, a separate sign permit process will be required, and it must also comply with UDA. Fire protection will be by the town of Smithfield. Water and sewer is provided by the town. The access to the property will be by 2 existing driveway cuts. The town council, when considering a finding for the conditional use permit, the planning board and the town council must consider the finding of fact. It is attached in your packet on page 15, I believe. The staff recommends no special conditions to be placed upon the property, and the planning board at its December the 6th meeting unanimously voted to recommend approval of the conditional use permit requested for the farmers market. The next item in your packet is the actual application packet prepared. There's an owner consent form. The owner of the property is Wild Mohammed. And then the finding of fact that you must consider are on page 14 and 15. I stand open for any question.
Council?
Mr. Embler, or this may be a question first and foremost to the city manager, if it's appropriate this time, since this is dealing specifically with the town, is it appropriate to ask specific questions on the town's behalf, not necessarily specific to the special use, but like costing of the landscaping and so forth?
I think so. I mean, yes, to answer your question, I think those things will be, this is really just to get the permission for the conditional use.
Would it have to come back to the council, I guess is my question. If it has to come back to the council prior to, then I guess we can do it at that time. But I would have specific questions because it is relating to the town. Are we going to lease this property? If so, how much? If we're going to install landscaping, how much is that going to cost the town? It appears that we're paving, I guess, existing pavement. I guess that is a question I would like answered tonight. Is there existing pavement there for parking spots that we would just stripe? There's not going to be any other paving.
That is correct. We would just be striping the existing pavement is there. We would be needing to put curb stops down. They could be railroad ties, salt-treated timbers, or concrete curb stops, but there would be some ties there. And the customer parking would all be on the existing asphalt pavement. A lot of the vendor parking there's gravel parking, gravel areas on the lot. We would propose those for the vendors, trucks and trailers to be parked in where the gravel areas are.
Okay, all right. I guess my other two questions really can wait to at a later time.
And I think the plan, and I'll talk to Mr. Johnson, but I think the plan is to bring back that explanation maybe in the March timeframe, which I think we can wrap up. And I think you'll find that between the budget monies that have been allocated already and either donations or sponsorships, that's just to give you a little bit of background. That's the idea, to take care of the landscape requirements, the striping, other things that, would be the out-of-pocket funds.
Okay.
So, that's the approach. It seems like it's a good situation. I think the only thing that may be tentative next month, not tentative, but it will be more of a short-term lease situation. Obviously I think the owner is happy to have us there, and those terms are I think it'll be pretty general. But the only downside, which I want to make sure everybody understands, is if the property were to be sold or developed for another use, I think the owner would say, well, I'm going to give you a notice that farmers market's got to end by this date or something along those lines. So it's not a long-term lease by any stretch. That's why we're trying to keep the cost down and just use the actual budgeted farmers market funds, which primarily come from the farmers market revenues. What they pay when they sign up.
And just one other comment along that line is, as you're thinking about this, if that be the case, because we really don't know, if it is a short-term lease and we go in and put in, make all these improvements to the property as far as landscaping goes, please be mindful of what would happen if it is a very short-term lease and we were to get notice, say within 60 days, that he won't serve. I just use that as an example. But what happens to those improvements to the property? I hate for us to go in and 30 days later, we say, I've got a buyer for this property. So just be mindful of that, please.
How many vendors have we had? And I guess we think that the vendors will increase in number with a new location, but what do you think in terms of vendors?
I would defer to Tim on that. He's been more involved with working with the vendors, and he can answer that question much better than I.
Before we get to Tim, let me ask you this. Traffic. Can you address the traffic issues out there?
As mentioned in the write-up, that the driveway cuts are DOT approved driveway cuts. We contacted them. They're existing cuts. They said that they would honor them. There's good sight distances in both directions of approaching traffic from there. Left turns coming from Selma, not any problem at all, because there's the center turn lane. Right turns coming in there. There's pretty good stacking distance coming off the Hospital Drive road into the property. There's a couple of hundred feet. It's not going to be a real high volume turning situation as if it were a grocery store or a Walmart by any means. Once the cars get in there, there's adequate distance for queuing going before you get the parking spaces. And even if we did have, say, 5 or 6 cars turning in at one given time, there's room to queue them before they get to the parking spot. In other words, they can be on the property and out of the traffic lane before they ever have to park. So I think and we're actually fronting the vendor booths between the existing pavement and the roadway, but they're outside of the right-of-way 301, which basically means you're going to have about 15 to 20 feet behind the curb. There will be nothing in there. It's an open space, so visibility of coming and going side triangles should be really good.
Thank you.
All right, so your question about the vendors. In the past, here at Town Hall, we'll start out with anywhere from 10 to 12 or 13. Then as the season gets a lot hotter and there are a few of those springtime, early summer vegetables, the number of vendors kind of goes down. I think it's one reason is because we start with a pretty small number of vendors, and we believe that, and this is coming. In fact, Councilman Charles Williams who's the liaison with the farmers market. I advisory committee, I think at that last meeting, we spoke or talked about moving, and the committee believes for it to be successful, that it's got to move. There's just not enough business here at Town Hall, whether it's people being able to see it, that's really difficult coming by. And then probably the biggest concern we heard from people that came was parking and being able to get easy access. So the committee felt like if we were going to continue it, that it had to move. And that's just one of the places or the place after the committee thought about. There really wasn't a lot of other places, to tell you the truth, that we could think of to move it to where there was more traffic volume, people could see it driving by and just get that stop-in traffic. So we do believe that with the vendor fees, that we can cover the cost. That I can't guarantee that, but we've come very close here, so I really think we can do it out there also.
What are the dates for the farmer's market be open, Tim?
It's been opening the second Friday in April and running through, last year it ran through Labor Day weekend. Fridays and Saturdays like 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Any other questions of either Mr. Emerald or Mr. Benson?
I have a question for Paul. Didn't we grant a conditional use permit for this property a year and a half or so ago?
I don't think the council actually granted a conditional use permit. Permission was given to use it for agricultural sales, which individual vendors can set up with the permission of the property owner on any property within the town of Smithfield on a daily basis and sell farm produce.
Well, I must be thinking about the sign permit.
I'm not prepared to answer. I'll gladly look into it and get an answer for you.
It came to my mind too, and I believe it was Mark's on the planning board. I assume he didn't have a problem with this, but my memory was there was some formality there where he had applied, and I assume that's going to be incorporated into this, or will we have, but you're saying
what we have is space for 12 booths out there or vendors at the present time, and that was more for conditionalizing space. What happens is that he may occupy 2, 3, 4, 5 of the spaces. It would depend on what the arrangement was. That's really between he and the property owner. And then we have additional spaces to the rear of where the parking is going to be that can be developed. In actuality, we can probably totally go up to around 40 spaces out there if it really takes off and goes, but starting with 12.
Any other comments or questions from the council? Anybody else that's been sworn in would want to speak? Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The public hearing is closed. Council, we have, if we're going to move, we've got findings of fact, the 4 findings of fact. And as a matter of, I guess, housekeeping, just because I'm presiding over the meeting tonight, I don't lose my right to vote acting as Mayor Pro Tem tonight. But Mr. Spence, do I have the right to make motions?
Yes.
I would move we vote in the affirmative, findings of fact, A, B, C, and D.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, but Tim, I think typically, once you've done the findings of fact, we just do a separate vote that approves the conditional use. It's a little tedious, but it's makes it rather clear. So just want one motion to approve the conditional.
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Moving to the second item for public hearing tonight, CUP 12-12 United Developers, Inc. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit to construct and operate a 64-unit multifamily housing complex on property located within a B3 zoning district. The property considered for approval is located on the west side of West Market Street, approximately 350 feet south of its intersection with Wilson Mills Road, and further identified as Johnson County Tax Parcel ID number 15078199K. This is a property that's behind where the Wendy's in West Smithfield used to be. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing being open, Mr. Embler, I will turn it over to you.
I would like to start by referencing the council to the location. This is US 70 Business West. This is NC 210 Highway. This is the town cemetery. This is the proposed property that's under consideration. It's immediately adjacent to the town cemetery. If you will recall, this is the property formerly owned by Arthur Stevenson. It had a conditional use permit for an auto storage recovery there a couple of years ago. The owner of the property is Forex Bank. The developer of the property is United Developers, Inc. The proposed name of the project will be Smithfield Green Apartments. It is located on 5.98 acres. It is presently zoned B3. It's currently unoccupied except for there's an office trailer out there and a small garage, a couple of other kind of substandard parcel buildings out there also. The proposed use will be for a 64-unit multifamily dwelling apartment complex. The proposed multifamily apartment complex will not be located within the environmental sensitive area to include floodplains and designated wetlands. The site will be subject to the town of Smithfield stormwater management regulations. The zoning to the north is B3 commercial, to the south O&I, which is the cemetery, to the east B3 and R6, which is commercial and residential, and to the west it's office and institutional, and it's multifamily housing, residential, and assisted living to the west. The applicant has provided a detailed sketch plan, which is included in your packet, that shows a 64-unit apartment complex located on West Market Street. The plan shows the location of 4 two-story apartment buildings, each containing 16 apartment units. Internal circulation is provided by a two-way drive aisle with 139 landscape parking spaces. Ingress and egress will be provided by the existing access point on West Market Street. The plan indicates a planted buffer strip with fence along the south and west property lines. A buffer will also be provided along the northern property line. A stormwater detention pond is shown located on the west side of the project. Amenities are shown on the plan and include a playground, tot lot, and a covered seating area, picnic area, and sidewalks, full circulation internal to the site. As far as consistency with the future land use plan, the future land use plan has identified this property as being adjacent to areas suitable for high density residential developments. Consistency with the Unified Development Ordinance. The multifamily apartment complexes are permitted within the B3 business zoning district with an approved conditional use permit and are consistent with the UDO. Compatibility with surrounding land uses. The proposed multifamily apartment complex is adjacent to similar multifamily housing developments and conveniently located near shopping centers and other amenities. It is unlikely that the negative impact of any existing or future surrounding uses will occur, providing that adequate buffers and screening are installed in accordance with the UDO. Landscaping and buffering. Landscape buffers, parking lot landscaping, and building foundation panels are required in accordance with the UDO. Signs, a development identification sign that will be allowed near the site. Fire protection will be by the town of Smithfield. Should be only minor impacts to the schools, if any. Parks and recreation. A recreation fee requirement will apply to this development. Access and streets. Access will be to West Market Street from the existing driveway cut.
Water and sewer provider will be the town of Smithfield, and electrical provider will be Progress Energy. When considering the conditional use permit application, the town council shall consider specific finding of fact, and they're included in your packet and subsequent pages. Condition of the approval, staff recommends approval of the proposed multifamily apartment complex with the following conditions: that the applicant provide a detailed site plan that meets or exceeds all minimum development standards found in the town of Smithfield's Unified Development Ordinance prior to the site plan approval. The planning board recommendation on December 6, 2012 unanimously voted to recommend approval of the conditional use permit request for a 64-unit multifamily housing complex with the condition that the applicant provide a detailed site plan that exceeds the minimum requirements of the UDA. Attached on page 23, you have the application provided by United Developers. On page 27, you have the owner's consent form from Forex Bank. And then on page 28 and 29, you have the finding of fact evaluation, which you must take into consideration. And then on page 30 and 31, you have the proposed site plan as well as elevations to the building. So,
Any questions for Paul?
Yes. I see the Forbes Bank is the applicant. Are they the ones going to finance it? Are they looking for federal government subsidy to work with this? Or is it going to be a private finance?
It will be constructed, and Mr. Owen is here with United Developers to answer your questions. It's my understanding that this will be funded privately with, it will be tax credits, and that they own and operate all their own facilities, and he will go into that and explain in more detail on that.
It might be helpful then if we could go ahead and hear from Mr. Owen. Mr. Owen, if you will come forward.
Tim, members of council, my name is Bill Owen, and I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I am with United Developers. If I may tell you a little bit about United Developers, we have been in the multifamily affordable housing business for over 30 years. We own all of our developments, we have built all of our developments, and we manage all of our developments. We currently have over 4,000 units that we own, have built, and manage. In 1997, prior to that, most of our developments were built through the Rural Development Program. But in 1997, we started participating in the North Carolina Housing Finance Tax Credit Program. The tax credit program in all states is the primary financier of all affordable housing today. Since we have been involved in that program, we have received over 40 awards and have, as late as last year, were recognized as having the best design for multifamily rental properties. In 2006, we also started participating in the South Carolina Housing Finance and Development Authority. These are federal tax credits that are administered by different state agencies. It's a competitive application process. The sites are scored for location, design, what the market study is. We have, prior to submitting our application, we commissioned for a preliminary market study to determine if there was a need in the Smithfield area. I can tell you that we have been looking for the right site in Smithfield for many years. We have tried one time before, and our site did not receive a high enough score. It was located out Highway 210. What North Carolina Housing Finance is looking for today is sites that are convenient to the residents. They want a site that is within 1 mile of a grocery store. This site certainly meets that criteria as it is next door, and also shopping. And as you know, there is a Rose's store there, and also there's a dollar store that's in that shopping center. We think that this development will enhance the entrance into Smithfield. In addition to the things that Paul mentioned about the site, the grounds will be irrigated lawns, and of course the shrubbery would be irrigated as well. This is a larger blow up of the site that you have in your packet there. This would be the entrance off of West Market Street. One of the things that wasn't mentioned also is that there is a separate management and leasing office that is this building right here. Inside that building is also a community room that is available to the tenants. There is also commercial washing machines that are for the tenants. We do washer and dryer hookups in all of our units for those residents that are those tenants that do have their own washer and dryer, but if they don't, we make these available. We also put 2 computers, printers, and supplies in there for the use of the tenants. We put high-speed internet in all of our units. The market study indicated that the need would be for 48 2-bedroom units and 16 3-bedroom units, and that's what we have proposed. The process that we go through with North Carolina Housing Finance is you submit a preliminary application, which we did 2 weeks ago. That was the deadline. That part of the application is a site scoring and another market study. Over the next 2-3 months, each site that was submitted for consideration will be visited by North Carolina Housing Finance and scored. I can tell you that there were 150 applications submitted throughout the state, and they will end up funding about 38 to 40 of those applications. They also divide the state into 4 regions: the East, the Central, the Metro, and the West. Johnston County is in the East. We compete with 38 counties, and there were 40 applications submitted in the East. As I said, we have been very fortunate in our submission of applications since we've been in this program. Last year we submitted 3 applications, and we received funding for 3 applications. One was in Fayetteville, in Cumberland County, one was in Hope County, and then one was an addition to our development in Johnston County that is over at the intersection of I-40 and Highway 42. This gives you an idea of what the development would look like. This is a 16-unit building, and what we do is not only do we do the front, but the rear of the building is also finished, so it doesn't really have a rear look to it. This is a drawing of the management office, and it shows you that the community room, and it shows you, there is also a kitchen in there that the tenants could use if they want to entertain or whatever they would like to do. And these are some photographs of some actual developments. This is a development in Smithfield, South Carolina. This is in Spring Lake. This one is in Fayetteville, and this one is in Sumter, South Carolina. So it gives you an idea. Now, you can see slight changes because these represent about 6 years of different developments. And you can see a slight change in the roof lines, and here we've added some copper coverings in them. The North Carolina Housing Finance Program is a great program. It is probably the most regulated in the rental housing business. We have an annual compliance review where we are visited by North Carolina Housing Finance to make sure that the development is being maintained, that it's doing everything that it said it was going to do. And then within our own company, quarterly, we have an every unit inspection to make sure that we as landlords are doing what we're supposed to do, and also that the tenants are taking care of the apartments. Now, when I said affordable housing, we target incomes up to 60% of the county median income. The county median income, as determined by HUD for Johnston County, is $74,000. So, in other words, there are tenants that can live in our development earning up to 60% of that, so they could somewhere around $40,000. We do, because Johnston County is considered a high-income county, and a lot of that, by the way, is affected by its closeness to Raleigh. And with our market study, we did take that in consideration in determining the rents, that there are parts of Johnston County that are higher income than other parts of it. So the rents that we proposed take that in consideration. And based on the preliminary market study, the evaluation was that there was a dire need for this type of development. There had not been any new developments, any apartments built since 1990, and that they believed that this would be very successful. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have that I didn't cover.
I'd like to follow up on one thing. Your company do all the maintenance work on
the maintenance? Yes, sir. With our company is divided into three parts. It's United Developers, that's the development part. United Management is the management company, and that really has the most number of people in it. We do our own maintenance through subcontractors. We also, because we're in different states, we also do a lot of subcontracting locally. And then the construction part of the business is Duggins Smith. Murray Duggins is the owner of the company, and Jim Smith is his son-in-law.
But one more thing, for is keeping up the grounds and things of that nature. You do all of that, right?
Yes, sir. We would, in this particular case, we would subcontract to somebody here that would take care of it.
And so you would look for the town to come in and start to help, maybe sweeping the streets?
No, sir, not inside. No, sir.
In your compound, right?
We would take care of all of that. That would be our responsibility. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had one question. You had mentioned I guess there'd be rents up to 60%.
Yes, sir.
Is there a minimum
Yes, sir. Some of the units, I can tell you that we will have 14 two-bedrooms and 2 3-bedrooms that will be up to 30%. Then we will have 8 two-bedrooms and 2 3-bedrooms that will be up to 50%. And then the balance of the units would be up to 60%. And that balance, that's part of the compliance review. That balance has to be maintained all the time.
And that's what family, how many? 74,000
Family of 74 is a family of 4, yes, sir.
So if you have single people in the two-bedroom?
Typically not, because we're a family unit, and we do have a restriction as to only 2 people per bedroom are allowed.
Yeah, and that was actually going to be one of my questions.
Yes,
But theoretically, you could have unrelated families living in one apartment, correct?
That probably would not get through the screening process, because we do have a pretty comprehensive screening process, not only financially to make sure that they can pay their rent and pay their utilities, because they all have to do that, and then also from a criminal standpoint that we check locally, statewide, and nationally on that to make sure we get the right tenants.
So let me ask another question. In your other apartment complexes, do you have any units that are rented to unrelated family members?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Owens,
Yes, sir.
does any of your properties experience any high crime or vandalism that you have?
I can tell you that about 5 years ago, we were asked by the Fayetteville City Council to help them in a revitalization area, and ask us if we would request an application to go in there. And we knew that it was going to be crime in that area, and we did experience there. But since that time, with the support of the local police, that there is virtually, I won't say there's not any, because there's always disputes or something, but most of the time we find that the crime comes from outside the unit, if they're breaking and entering or something like that, because if it's internal, then we don't allow the people to stay there.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions of Mr. Owens or Mr. Embler?
I've got one more question as far as the actual property that maybe you can answer, or Mr. Embler. As far as the screening between the cemetery, I noticed there will be a vegetative screening as well as a fence.
Yes, sir.
Can you comment on what type of fence, or do you, at this stage, do you know what type of fence? Because that's one of my concerns is this property located right there at the cemetery, and.
And we're very sensitive to that. And I also met with Mr. Stevenson, who has the properties on the back side of the property, and he is familiar with our company, and he had no concern about what we would do. I assured him that we would do proper screening back there. To answer your question as far as exactly what fence that we would put, or what type of vegetation we would put between us and the cemetery, that has not been finally determined, but it certainly would be something that would be approved by the town of Smithfield.
I have one other question, and it's regarding parking. This is maybe more directed towards Mr. Embler. I just want to make sure, I think we have, 139 parking spots. And the reason I asked my question, or one reason I asked my question is about the unrelated family members, is because if there's more than one unrelated family living in there, that means more cars, more than likely. And so I just want to make sure that 139 spots, in your opinion, Mr. Embler, is sufficient for this size development.
That is compliant with our code
Okay. And then my final question is, I noticed that there's going to be a playground on the property. Do we have any idea at this time, or maybe you can comment based on your other projects, what that will entail?
Usually it's two types of playground. There's a thing called a tot box, which is basically a sandbox for the smaller children. The playground itself usually has swings and slide and climbing bar and that type of thing.
Will that area be fenced in itself?
No, sir. Let me mention one thing about the cars too. We require all cars to be registered. When the tenant leases a property, all cars have to be registered there too. So we try to police that also, that they're not unrelated vehicles there on property. We do not allow any work to be done on cars on the property. We don't allow cars to be washed on the property. And everybody understands all of that when they are applying to live there. Most of our developments, by the way, have wait lists because they're in needed area and folks know that they're good places to live. They're clean, they're modern. I didn't even mention to you that all of the appliances, of course, are Energy Star appliances, high efficiency, central heating and air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpeting in all of the dry areas. So they are nice places to live, and we just ask that the tenants take care of them.
And Mr. Emler, as far as even with this recreation area, I think you mentioned that a fee in lieu of, or the recreation fee would still apply. Is that correct? That's just based off the size of the playground or whatever. But my real question is at what time would that money be due the town? Would that be collected by the town prior to CO, or at what time?
That would be the normal time prior to the issuance of CO, the recreation fee.
Okay, all right, thank you.
How are utility bills? Is that something y'all pay utility bills and that's included in the rent?
What we are required to do is, in determining the rent, we have to give a utility allowance. And the utility allowance is determined by public housing. So, for example, the utility allowance for a two-bedroom unit is $141 a month, and for a three-bedroom it's $156. Quite honestly, that's pretty high because our units are so efficient, but North Carolina Housing Finance requires that the public housing utility allowance be used.
So each unit would have its own meter and pay its own bill?
Yes, they have their own meter. Our rents would be not including their utilities. Now, what we provide is trash pickup and garbage pickup. And the tenant pays for their utilities, water and sewer.
I have a question. Mr. Owens, I noticed there's one entranceway into your rental property.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you could answer this, or maybe Mr. Does that meet the town standards, and does it have the adequate width for emergency vehicle access?
At this particular stage of the application, you know, this is not our final application that would be submitted to the planning department for approval. I did talk to DOT about, and you can see there appears to be like a turn lane there that we would probably have to construct. But we will meet all of those requirements, whatever is required.
Any other questions of these two gentlemen? Is there anyone else here who would like to speak?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The public hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, prior to any motion, I would like to just make sure that the fencing that was discussed earlier, that plan is brought back before the town, just so that we have an idea of what that's like, and just put that out. The fencing. Yep.
Mr. the site plan brought back here? Wouldn't have to be, that can be a condition that you could place on the conditional use, that you have an opportunity to review the site plan as a council. Normally, staff would see that it was in compliance with the code. Can I have permission to say just one other thing in regard to the buffer? In the UDO, there's a pretty extensive, it goes on for about 3 or 4 pages of buffer. And we have different levels and different intensity of buffers, just from straight landscape to berms, to landscape berms, to fences and berm combination. There's a lot of different alternatives, and you start with a 40-foot buffer, and then depending on what you put in there, the highest would be berm landscaping and fencing. You could reduce the buffer by half. In other words, it could go down to 20 feet. But if it were just straight landscaping, it would still have to be 40 feet wide. And there's a given number of plants that's calculated by the linear foot of property line that would be required there. And the basic thing is to have an opaque screen within 5 years at a height of 6 feet.
And my concern about this, and it's really, I'm sure you'll do a great job, but my concern, Mr. Emler, is that we have these requirements for other areas around the town, and we've stated that we do need to look at our UDO and maybe make adjustments of our landscaping and our vegetation screening. And these are put in, and we require all this landscaping to be put in, and then it's not maintained. And then a year later, the bushes are dying, the trees are dying, it's overgrown with weeds and so forth, and it looks worse than if there was nothing there. And so that's really my concern at this stage right now, while we have the ability, if you will, to maybe regulate it as part of this use. That's why I'm saying I would like to kind of see the fencing there prior to final approval, and that's the reason why.
I would make a motion that we approve the request with the condition that the applicant provide a detailed site plan that meets or exceeds all minimum development standards found in the Town of Smithfield Unified Development Board prior to site plan approval, as well as requiring the structure of the fence and the berm around the outside perimeter brought back to the council for approval.
I'll second that.
We got to do the findings of fact before we get to that. Let's hold that and do the findings of fact. Approve the 4 findings of fact. Okay. On page 28 and 29, the findings of fact are set forth as A, B, C, and D. I move that we approve all 4, vote all 4 in the affirmative.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That was unanimous. Madam Clerk. Now to Councilman Harris's motion to approve it subject to the condition. The conditions actually set forth on page 22 with the additional language regarding the fence and the buffer. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Owens. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Hope this works out.
We will be a good neighbor, I promise.
Thank you. We come now to the item on the agenda entitled Public Comment. This is a time where members of the public, citizens or otherwise, can come forward and address the council. Are there any citizens who would like to come forward and address the council? Come on up. And if you will, when you come up, if you'll state your name, your address, so we can have a record of your visit.
My name is Sharon Underwood. I live at 918 Hobbs Street in Clayton, North Carolina. I'm here on behalf of Divine Destiny Adult Care. I am on the board of directors, and I just want to read a little reading. Dear Council, Divine Destiny Adult Care Incorporated began as the result of a caregiver who had very little support, resources, or advocacy in how to best care for her father and her son. Respite care was limited due to financial hardships and work obligations. It became evident that the need for this type of service within Johnson County was long overdue and non-existent. 30 years ago, Angelo, Katrina's son, was left in her care. She overcame obstacles that only strengthened her spirit, her heart, and fueled her unstoppable determination. This determination would only be tested again when her father was gravely diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. She became his full-time caregiver, working multiple jobs, being a mother, a wife, and a caregiver of 2 family members did not slow down her desire to bring life to her vision. Her vision is one of a kind and like no other. Divine Destiny Adult Care Incorporated was her vision, and today its doors are open. Its purpose twofold. One is to provide the best possible care for Johnson County citizens in need of the highest quality of adult health services. And secondly, to provide respite care and support to those caregivers who are often in need of resources, support, and respite care for their loved ones diagnosed with Alzheimer's, dementia, and other cognitive or physical conditions. These services are provided in a home-like environment by committed, nurturing, and professionally trained staff. Our day program allows our participants to receive the daily care they need so their caregivers can receive a well-deserved break or have the option to return to work. The second is to provide support, resource, and advocacy for those caregivers who are in dire need of daily assistance and support group meetings. Divine Destiny Adult Daycare is the other choice for those affected by cognitive impairments, disorders, and injuries, as well as those affected by physical challenges. We offer day health services for those diagnosed or those caring for someone with Alzheimer's, dementia, or other medical conditions. We serve our community with pride, with love, understanding, and commitment. We cannot do it alone. We need your help. Our doors opened September 2012. As of today, Divine Destiny Adult Care has incurred all of the renovations, including a sprinkler fire system, startup and operating expenses with no assistance from state, federal, or local funds. Divine Destiny Adult Care, Inc. is currently in process of obtaining a loan for $347,000 from the local USDA Rural Development Office, which found us eligible for funding to assist in the purchase of our facility and cover limited operating expenses. I think it's like for 1/4. This funding will also allow us the ability to hire additional employees to ensure we continue to meet all future needs of our participants. On behalf of our participants and our community, stakeholders in need, we ask for your commitment in securing this loan, thus ensuring Divine Destiny Adult Daycare obtains financial substantiability and growth. In comparison, our request is small. This statement is in regards to allocation funding and commitment which was made supporting a grant by the town of Smithfield to another adult day center to open its doors in the very near proximity of our facility. We have already proven our commitment to our participant and to our community. Our doors are already open. Is the town of Smithfield willing to make that commitment and stand with Divine Destiny Adult Care, ensuring these services continue without interruption? As a board member, I ask that you commit to Divine Destiny Care Incorporated, but mostly to represent those participants and caregivers who live, who work within Johnson County, who are affected by the onset of Alzheimer's, dementia, and other cognitive physical conditions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I've been out there. It's a wonderful facility, and y'all do a wonderful job. There are a lot of angels in there. And Paul, I don't know what we can do as a town, if we can help them look for grants, but what we can do is I would ask Paul if he could look at some possibilities, and we'll can't promise you anything sitting here other than we'll look and see what we can do and get back with y'all.
Okay, thank you
very much. Anybody else? Moving on down the agenda, we come to the consent agenda. Council, have you had a chance to look over those items?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion. We'll approve the consent agenda.
So, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Coming to the business items. Item number 1. Consideration to approve Resolution 518, allowing the Partnership for Children and the Miracle League of Johnson County to use 2 portions of land at Community Park for special needs children. Mr. Johnson.
Sir, Mr. Ashley and Council. The request here came from the fundraising committee, the Partnership to Build a Miracle, which is 2 groups have come together to form this committee. Partnership for Children is one of those, and then also the Miracle League of Johnston County. They've joined forces, and their goal is to build 2 facilities at Community Park. The council's already approved the use of the property at Community Park for these 2 facilities. One is a baseball field that's right at the entrance to the park on the road, on Bucadea Road, on that road frontage there, to the right at the entrance. Then also a little bit further down into the park, we call it the Purple Playground, over to the right when you come into the park. Part of that playground will remain intact, but a lot of different type of features will be added that will be accessible to special needs children and able-bodied children as well. And the committee asked for a resolution because some of the donors that they have talked to just want some sense of understanding or commitment from the town that they're not going to give money and then 3 or 4 years from now or 5 years, whatever, that the town will come back and say, we want to change that to a softball field. So what they have asked is that the town would adopt a resolution saying when these facilities are built that they would stay intact or used for these purposes, intended purposes, for 20 years. And you never know what's going to happen, but I can't see why we would change that going into it. Both of these facilities, the baseball field, which will be accessible, and it's a special surface. You all probably remember the presentation on that, and the playground itself. There's nothing like that. Cary is the closest place that has anything like that. So The great thing about this to me is, number one, it brings these type of facilities to Johnson County. Number two, it brings them, probably number one, it brings them to Smithfield. They're right here at the fingertips of our residents. And we'll have folks coming in, I'm sure, from around Johnson County as well as some surrounding counties. So that's the request and the purpose behind it.
Council, any questions?
I do. Tim, this fits in with your previous plan. This is just acknowledging that in a resolution. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's right.
No additional land will be appropriated. This is what we've already talked about.
That's right.
How much money they've raised? Do you have any idea?
I think they're very close to $500,000. I know they had a kind of a fundraising event at Ms. Julie Elsie's about 2 weeks ago to entertain some folks and pitch the idea. So I think and they've also hired a fundraising individual to help with that.
Any more questions? What's saying for council?
Motion we approve.
I'll second the motion to adopt the resolution.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Unanimous.
Can I'm sorry. We got Timothy Allen. He's my favorite baseball player in the world. Hey, Rod, I don't have anything on him. He loves it to death, and his folks, Jane and Ken, are huge supporters, and so they wanted to come tonight to show their support. We appreciate him being here.
Actually, I just want to say, I did not know anything about a guilty honor.
Well, I'm sorry you've had to sit through this boring meeting, let me tell you.
It was worthwhile.
We're good. What position do you play?
Depending on
Wherever you're needed?
wherever I'm needed, wherever I feel like.
Hey, oh, great.
He is like him, Rod.
That's right. Well, thank you for coming. Item number 2 on the business items, consideration to approve the purchase of a new video recording system for the police department. Call on Chief Scott.
Mayor Pro Tem, please, as the council, Patrol Commander Powell will be doing this presentation.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, thank you all for your time on this. We're currently requesting to purchase a new video recording system for interviews and witnesses during crimes. The current system we were using is antiquated and only partially functional. Actually, I just found out to be off, so we're having to make arrangements to use other agencies' equipment. We were currently approved this year in this year's budget for $9,247 for purchase. This is a unique piece of equipment manufactured and installed for the purpose of preserving confessions, admissions, falsehoods, statements for court and investigative purposes. Attached, you'll find the ruling on the new law for it. Actually, what we have to do on some felonies, they have to be recorded. Most recently, we now had to start doing custodial interviews for all juveniles, have to be recorded. And it's only going to be a matter of time before they add more to the list that we have to do. We've received several presentations from different organizations that claim to be able to meet these needs of this recording equipment. The company we used to solicit the bid was Carolina Video Incorporated, CVSI, which is out of Raleigh. And I've been dealing with them since last July. Business with their quick return my phone calls. We've also interviewed with Carolina Phone and Alarm, ADS Solutions. While these systems were less expensive than the recommended system, they did not meet the requirements created by the police departments for its video system. The system recommended is from BIS Digital and is created specifically as recording systems for the police department for interviewing and court purposes. It closely matches the original requested budget, but it goes over, the actual bid is $9,429.
That's really it. You're just requesting to approve the additional money, $182.
Well, we are requesting we make the purchase, the purchase order will be allowed to be issued. It's over $5,000, so we need to do it.
Any questions?
Can you, I think I read that this was not the lowest bid, right? Just for the record, can you sort of go through, just for the record, why we are not going with the lowest bidder?
The lowest bidder is actually the equipment is equivalent to what is in convenience stores, is currently what we've got now. And we've had a lot of issues with this current system. We've actually had some issues, and luckily we've had diesel recorders in there with us, so we were able to actually get the interview, which is part of it. We looked at different systems, and this system is the most user-friendly for our investigators and our officers, that everyone can use it. The one currently now, I got tasked with it when it was purchased, and I have to get the manual out every time I use it. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We want to do something that's...
So the other systems are not digital? And then just one other question, as far as storage of the media, I mean, is there anything that's going to be special about this that we may be facing coming in a...
It's going to be placed on a regular computer,
okay,
which is not compared to the other ones. It's actually the one we've got now, all the storage is built in it. So there's a lot of issues with it. We'll actually be able to, and this new system that we're looking at now actually allows us to move the recording equipment to another room when we'll be able to monitor it. Currently, if we have something major, 4 or 5 of us try to get in the little room. It's not much bigger than a break room, and try to watch that. And you have to be quiet because it picks up all the sound from the other room.
Question. Would this, the equipment that you're proposing require any upgrades throughout the year?
No.
No.
And it's actually got one of the lowest software assurance programs. It's only $300 a year. And the first year is free. Everything else that we're looking at was $1,000.
So we plan to purchase that insurance along with the equipment?
The first year is free. It comes with the package.
Is all of the money coming out of the police department budget, or are you requesting the additional funds to come out of contingency?
We are not requesting any additional funds. It will all come out of the capital budget of the police department.
We'll just transfer from another save line.
Council?
I'll make the motion that the purchase of the recording system be approved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Thank you. Before we go on to item number 3, I wanted to take a moment on the matter on the consent agenda. I wanted to publicly thank Daniel Sanders, who has applied for and willing to serve a second term on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. It's important that you be thanked. It's an important job, and appreciate you serving. Number 3 on the business agenda, consideration of a proposed vehicle allocation / replacement strategy for the Smithfield Police Department. Chief Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. The Police Department is constantly seeking ways to increase efficiency and effectiveness while operating in cost-effective ways to accomplish our goals. With this in mind, the Police Department is recommending it abandon the current policy of assigning 1 patrol officer to 1 car and return to our previous policy of sharing these vehicles. Cost savings created by this change will come in the form of fewer vehicles being purchased over the next 5 years. At current use rates, the department is estimating the town will need to purchase 31 vehicles through the next 5 fiscal years to remain within the 1 vehicle, 1 officer assignment currently being used within the police department. If the department returns to a shared option, an estimated 23 vehicles will need to be purchased through the same period. This is a savings of 8 vehicle purchases, or about $185,000 over the next 5 years. We will need to use some special tax dedicated funds that are non-general fund monies to purchase 1 special use vehicle for the police department during the current fiscal year. That would be money that would be coming from forfeiture money. Furthermore, if we implement this change immediately, we can avert purchasing any vehicles in fiscal year 2013-14 and only one vehicle in 2014-15 for the police department. To remain with current car assignments, the police department will need to recommend the purchasing of 5 vehicles in 13-14, 4 vehicles in 14-15. A full estimation of vehicle replacement timeline is in your packet. While the current policy has been effective to date, it will become more costly as time moves on. The investment the town made in police vehicles in 2010 created a situation where we will only need to purchase one vehicle through 4 fiscal years, ending in fiscal year 2015-2016. Had we remained on our previous regimen of purchasing vehicles, we would have had to purchase an additional 4 marked units during this time period. So in effect, we have a cost savings of about $92,000 based on what we have done so far. It is requested the town council discuss this request, through consensus approve the change in marked vehicle allocations within the police department. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Mayor Pro Tem, if there's any questions, certainly, just so the council is clear, this item is really just looking for the council's endorsement of that policy change about how to allocate and purchase the vehicles. That's really just a policy change if in fact you support that. The next item on the agenda is dealing with catching up with a van. That's a separate item. So by approving this one, this is truly just a policy change that will help the chief prepare his budget going forward for this upcoming year.
Do we need?
You don't have to. We can do it. I think, I mean, probably be nice. I think you approved, if I'm not mistaken, I think they approved the last one going back 2 or 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, Chief.
I don't think we did.
That is correct.
Not?
I think they did.
I think they did. And we can handle it either way. If just by consensus you're okay with it, I just wanted to share that with you and, give you the chance to weigh in there. I think, in a lot of ways, it's what everyone's looking for. It's a savings, it makes sense, and I think it's the right way to go forward. And again, certainly want to get the council's support for that if
my memory is getting kind of bad as I get older, but I see there's a budget memorandum, Appendix 1, in our package. I may have been given this, but I certainly do not remember seeing this memo.
What page is it on?
Page 97, a memo from Eric Williams regarding home fleet vehicle proposal. Again, I may be wrong, but I do not remember seeing this. And that's why I say that was my comment of not approving.
I understand. Yeah, I'm not sure it's how you want to do it, but I know it'll come up, and I'd just rather put it on the table and get the support of council if you agree, because it does ultimately come down to. You'll do it direct or indirectly through the budget proposal, and if you're comfortable with it, I think we get the message and we'll move forward. If you want to vote, that's fine too. So anyway.
I guess the question is just to be very specific. If we just make a motion as far as I guess basically you're saying do away with the take-home policy and go to the more of a shared car policy, and that's what you're asking for, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
That's right.
And then. If we were to do that, there would be, at this stage, no monies spent unless it comes back to us. Is that correct?
That's right.
And we're not going to, that's without going through the budget side.
That's right.
This is just your plan for right now. So it's not like if we approve this, you can go out and buy new cars or whatever.
No, we're hoping it's going to save us a lot of money.
I'm in favor of anything that improves the economic efficiency while certainly retaining the effectiveness of services provided to the citizens. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve this request.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Moving to item 4, consideration of a proposed budget amendment requesting allocation of funds to be spent on the purchase of a vehicle for use by the Narcotics Division of the Police Department. Chief Scott.
We are requesting to use forfeiture monies to purchase a special use vehicle for the narcotics unit. You price is a little over $18,000. That vehicle will come from the state bid, which meets the town's requirement for bidding for vehicles. So that they receive bids from all over the state for those vehicles before they ever post them online for us to use. We will be surplusing one vehicle as a result of getting that vehicle in for them. It is a older Grand Prix vehicle that is right now not able to be used and needs to be either extensive money put in it or surplus.
It's forfeiture money that you already have the money.
That's correct. We do have it, yes.
Any further questions for Chief Scott?
I guess with this van, I mean, this is a van, is that right?
It is a van, yes.
What's the point in having a van just?
It's a surveillance vehicle.
Okay. Now you'd mentioned a few days ago regarding, I guess, the software, the crime mapping software that you were no longer able to use due to, I guess that was for forfeiture funds. So I guess by you presenting this, you think that this van is a better use of that forfeiture funds than the software that you mentioned a few days ago?
Well, actually, we have enough money in forfeiture to make both purchases, but the mayor wants to seek a grant for that equipment prior to using forfeiture money for it.
Okay, so what's our total in forfeiture money right now?
Sorry?
How much do we have in forfeiture money right
now? A little over 40,000.
All right, and so you think this is the best use of this money at this time?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I move that the proposal be accepted.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 5, consideration of proposed amendments to the fiscal year 2012-2013 adopted fee schedule. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is really just a simple amendment to our fee schedule, and we're really just trying to cover specifically in the schedule just basic copying. You can see some CDs and other DVDs and other electronic flash drive devices that aren't specifically laid out in our fee schedule. So I just really just to correct that. That's all this is about. And you can see in the on page 113 that the proposed amounts, which are basically very standard throughout the state, actually probably on the low side, but black and white one-page copies, 10 cents per page. Color copies, 15 cents per page. Black and white, larger size, 8.5 by 14, 20 cents per page. Color the same size, 25 cents per page. The CD copy, $1.50. And the DVD, $2. And also, it's becoming more and more common to have, now that we have an IT person, full IT person, to use or require IT services to prepare a document request, which is allowed and actually authorized by state law, even encouraged. And trying to find an amount. The state law suggests that you use kind of a lowest common denominator. We could charge more, but it has been question not on ours, but in other jurisdictions, and using a lower amount. I mean, certainly $10 per hour is a lower amount for an IT personnel. They're paid actually more than that, but without having to split that here and try and defend something that someone might challenge. We decided to get a reasonable amount that we could easily defend at $10 per hour when that becomes necessary. And again, it's becoming more and more common. We'll need some help from our IT personnel to put together a disk or something to copy electronic records. So we're really just trying to clarify it so we can point to it in our fee schedule and move forward.
Thank you. Any questions of Paul? We have a motion.
Take it under review. Oh, this time I'm on the wrong one.
Motion to approve.
That's wishful thinking on my part, I'm sorry.
That's all right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Item number 6, presentation of model uniform agreement for interconnection with solar power operations for consideration.
Mayor Pro Tem, this is just a model agreement that we received about a week and a half ago, and really it is just for your review. And as stated earlier, just for your review. The town attorney is reviewing it. I just wanted you to be comfortable with it, so you've got plenty of time to look it over before you're asked to approve it, and that's what it is. Hopefully we'll have more input when that comes up. It could be next month, it may be April too before we're going to be asked to approve it, or something similar to it.
I did happen to be coming back from out of town today and noticed that the similar facility, I believe, is owned by the same people in the Four Oaks area. They're on the side of the interstate on the east side. I did observe that today. First time I had noticed it.
They're around. I'm not sure. There's a group in Selma too. I'm not sure if it's the same one or not.
The group in Four Oaks is the same one. I do know that.
The contract in Norfolk County is like an 18-month deadline, so we're trying to get the next 9 months. They're getting every farmer around. Sure help you through.
Okay.
There's no action required.
Moving to number 7. Is a resolution authorizing a grant application for the Public Utilities Department. Earl, is that going to be you? You're up.
Friday we received a notice, or not a notice, but a message from the group helping us get a grant for this study this sand infiltration issue at the water plant. Normally we would have taken some, this, but it came in so late, we just had to put it on next month's agenda, but the group helping us, which is Wood Company, recommended that we get this, done ASAP so we can get our name in the hat, and it will be a positive thing for the grants. But basically, from the council, I need a resolution authorizing us to seek the grant. The grant we hope to get is a maximum, which is $30,000. It's a planning grant from the Rural Center. We will have to contribute the rest of it, and it's anticipated to be $32,250, which we'll fund out of our existing operating budget. So I'll be glad to answer any questions. This is a pretty standard procedure, I believe, on these grants. Just seeking a resolution, the council saying, yeah, we agree, and we'll let you spend additional money to do the work.
The action requested tonight does not obligate the town to spend any money, though, and it's just printing a resolution so you can seek it, and if you get the grant, then we can make a determination.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And we'll hopefully have more information. If you recall, this was mentioned recently by Mr. Biken at the retreat about studying that problem about the water intake system right on the river there.
Is it the river where you have the problem, the intake in the river itself, or is it further along the line? There's where obviously there's where the sand is coming from, but it's getting all the way from the river into our reservoir, and then from the reservoir into the plant. So it's the sand is coming from the river.
Does the county have similar situations with their intakes that you're not aware of?
To my knowledge, they don't. Now, I'm not exactly sure how their intake is designed, but I know it's different than ours. That intake was put in, I don't know, 1970, 1971. At that time, the plant was probably doing maybe 750,000 gallons a day. We're doing upwards to 4 million sometimes. So the intake was designed for that type of usage. Obviously changed. And the people who've been around a long time say that the sand is just much worse in the river than it used to be.
Any further questions of Earl or the manager on this? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve this resolution.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any noes? Unanimous. Moving to item number 8, it's another grant application or pre-application. Paul, looks like that's yours.
And that one, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Council, this did just come up really literally just today as a request. Following our retreat last week, I talked to, if y'all recall, Skip Green, who's done several grant applications for the town and for other entities related to the town, and asked if he had anything in general that would help our small businesses and businesses in general. And he called back basically and indicated that this was a great program. We had talked about a revolving loan program, and he said good news is that's available, bad news is it's probably due, I think he said Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And he said if we could get this on the agenda tonight for just the approval, there's no resolution required. And as the Mayor Pro Tem indicated, it is again just a pre-application, and there'll be a more formal application. And if it's approved, obviously the town would have to accept it or not accept it, and enter into the agreement supporting this program. This program is referred to as a Rural Business Enterprise Program, and it's sponsored by the North Carolina Rural Development. Essentially what it does is it provides capital to the applicants, in this case that would be the town, of up to $75,000 that can be used among several different businesses. It's not really a straight match on jobs. That money can be used for startup equipment, machines. It can be used for expansions for, again, equipment, land, buildings, for a business that's in town that wants to expand. And it's a loan though, it's not it's a loan to the business. And what happens is they give us the money basically, matched on the job creation, essentially about $10,000 per job. So if you use the $75,000 amount, which is the maximum, that would take 7.5 or 8 jobs as an applicant. So if we had, for instance, 2 businesses that had 4 jobs apiece that wanted to either open up new or expand, we were approved, we had to fill in that blank as to which jobs those are, or which business that is. The money would come to us, and we would control the loan, the application to those businesses. In a 1, 2, 3, up to 5 year, or even 10 year if it involves land or a facility, repayment programs. So basically, the program gives the town the money. We enter into an agreement that we come up with, and they have model agreements, and they pay us back, basically the town. And again, we're using the money from another entity, not the town's true money at all. When they pay us back, though, we keep those funds, and we can use it for another applicant. So the more of these funds we can collect, and it's my understanding, although not 100% certain how much we can add to this, but I think we can collect even more funds than this. So if we had $75,000 this first year or so, we could add more funds later. And after a while, we could pull, $100,000 to $300,000 that we can loan out, according to the loan requirements. We can loan out to businesses that want to relocate to Smithfield or expand, ones that are already in Smithfield. It's a great program, using someone else's money to help our local businesses. It seems really wide open. It's been around for a long time. I've heard some good success stories with it. I'd love to get us in it. I think it will take a few years to get it going, but if we don't start now, we'll be starting next year or thereafter. So it's a good opportunity. I think we can find some applicants that will fit the requirements, which are not that onerous, with this program to try and help them out.
Paul, there's no funding match or commitment is required at this time. If you go forward with this and get approved, will there be a point where there'll be some funding match requirement by the city?
No, sir, there's not. Unless they alter the program. I think there are some other footnote programs that we're not interested in doing where you could come up with some money, but I think 99% of the entities use this program just do it as I explained. They just get the money, and if you don't include the administration of it, which I think would be relatively minor, and we might get some help from downtown Smithfield and that administration because they have a good touch with local businesses that might be in need of that also.
The county has this opportunity. They started when Michael Sherman was here about 10 years ago, and they built it up to about a $300,000 loan pool. Locally, Riverside Coffee Company, when they first opened up, took advantage of that and paid it back. And there's been a couple of other entities out at the airport that the county has loaned to. And like Mr. Savage said, it's at a higher rate or higher interest I've worked with where they needed just a bridge financing to make the project work. And it's typically at a higher rate, just about 8%.
As I understand it, the cost to the town would be administering the funds.
From my understanding, it doesn't cost the town anything other than just, like you said, administering. We're looking after the bookkeeping of taking care of that.
So, question, is this, it says in here under program description, I apologize, I mean, we literally just got this tonight, so I haven't read through it. It says that priority will be given to projects in the central business district. And then it says something about attachment 1, which I don't see in attachment 1, but I guess that is the downtown businesses. Is that the case here, or is this just an example?
That's really just an example. We can craft it any way, but I think if you read through it, you'll see that we could apply it to anywhere in the town's jurisdiction at all. That would just be more the focus of it.
Okay, so downtown businesses will not receive priority over other applications as stated on page 1. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. That's right.
Typically what has happened with the county is that usually banks tend to bring projects to the county, knowing that they've got good projects that need an additional $50,000 bridge loan to make the projects work, and that's usually we take, the town would need to enter into taking the first one, either the property itself or the equipment used, with the county's got equipment purchases.
Okay. So, I was just going to say, Paul, so you'll, I guess, redraft this document? I guess before it goes out or whatever.
So is this for just the downtown development, or is this for the city?
I think you can set those parameters as you deem appropriate. We can do either one.
Any reason that we couldn't do it for everybody, and then whoever applies for it would get it?
I don't believe, unless Mr. Johnson knows, I don't think that hurts any applicants. I don't think the program is just focused on downtown.
Again, the county, if it's the same one, which it sounds very similar to that, it's done for the county. So I don't think it's for any kind of depressed area or any kind of designated areas for whoever comes up with, a good solid project that,
I think you see that. It's almost it's same focus or try to focus on downtown versus, only because I think many would say that it's, in a lot of cases, it's more difficult in the downtown area in some circumstances than a surrounding one. And some of those downtown places are smaller and in need a little bit more help with those gap loans. And then someone said that, if we can have a successful business in the downtown area, it might be more beneficial to, the town proper once it's there and set up. Just more of an uphill battle in a lot of cases for some businesses. And that's why I think you see that focus in that area, but don't rule out the edge.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really have a problem, but I just want to make sure that we're clear that before we approve this, and then we go out telling businesses, oh yeah, you can apply for this, and then come to find out it's only for downtown businesses, or that downtown businesses would get priority over it. And so I'd highly recommend, Paul, because it is stated more than once in this document that downtown businesses will receive priority. And on page 5, page 1, and other places. So. Just so we're clear.
You're saying just make it uniform throughout town? No problem.
I mean, if that's the answer.
Yes.
Well, it also says in there that it's for any business within the corporate limits. What saith the council?
I say we move with it. Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, we need to make it clear, while we're doing this, that it's for the whole town of Smithfield, because in a way it is written out, like I said, it's the downtown development, the downtown development will be administered. I don't have a problem with someone has to administer it, but it needs to be understood that any business in Smithfield, incorporated in Smithfield, if they meet some criteria, they can use.
that a friendly amendment to your motion, Mr. Harris?
That's just kind of, so.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. We come now to the part of the agenda for the mayor's report. The mayor could not be here tonight. Well, I'll call it the Mayor Pro Tem's report. The only thing I'm going to say is we had our retreat last Thursday and Friday night with the council, all the department heads, the manager, and the town clerk. It was open to the public. We had a good time. We all were able to discuss our goals, hopes and dreams for the town of Smithfield, and there'll be a product coming out of that in terms of a report from the moderator. But my report, I'd like to ask the councilors, anything coming out of that retreat that y'all would like to address or discuss?
Well, I just want to say, echo what you just said, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I thought it was a very good retreat, and I want to thank you, the department heads, and Paul and Shannon for all your hard work and your participation in it. And I've received some feedback from many of you, and if I haven't, I'd like to get some feedback of what you personally thought about it, and if you thought it was good. I would encourage, I'm looking forward to the report from the consultant, and hopefully we have put together some goals and some attainable goals and some measurable goals that we can actually achieve. I'm looking forward to that. And again, I want to thank, I know it was 2 long nights. We did a lot of partying and everything. I'm just kidding. It was 2 very long nights, but I appreciate everybody hanging in there. I thought it was very productive. I guess one comment more on another aspect of it is, as we start our budget process, and I know, Paul, you had mentioned you're starting to meet with the department heads. I guess one concern of mine, and I know other council members have voiced this, same thought, I guess, since 2005, 2006, our economy hasn't picked up any. And so not only are we challenged in the business world, we're challenged in the governmental side of it as well. And we've had to make some tough decisions, and I think we're going to have to continue to make those tough decisions for hopefully just a little while longer until we get this thing turned around. But you know, I think we're heading in the right direction, but we've got to continue to work to get our fund balance back up. We've had to dip into that, and we've got to continue to chip away at it, and every little bit that we can contribute makes a difference. So, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if it pleases you, I would like to ask or challenge this team, this council, and the department heads to really start looking at your budgets now for next year. And I would challenge you to, let's try to set a goal of at least trying to reduce the overall budget for next year by a minimum of 5% from last year. And I just set that as a challenge and as a goal as you're starting to think about it, so that we're clear that we've got to continue to do this. And that's just my 2 cents worth. For what it's worth, I would challenge the department heads and this council. Let's start looking at that.
I think that's very important. We've got to be cognizant of economic efficiency. Any other council members?
Would it be appropriate for us to, do we need to make a motion in some form to direct the town manager as he starts his budget to work toward that goal, or some type of goal?
I guess we can. I guess it won't hurt. I'll just put it in the form of a motion then that we work towards reducing the budget, overall budget by 5% of where it stood from last year. Is that appropriate? Because I hate to say, I mean, I want to throw out just some number because I have no idea what that's, how that's going to affect, but at least we can work towards that.
Your motion is a goal, not a mandatory.
That's right. That's
line in the sand.
Consensus among the council that we work towards 5% reduction.
At a minimum, at a 5%.
It's on the budget.
Yeah. Did you get that? Okay, that's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Any other council comments? Mr. Manager, turn it over to you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, you have my written report with the detail from the East Department. A little follow-up on last month's regular meeting, just to see our status there. A couple items picking up on page 2, item 11. Again, the Internet sweepstakes, I think dilemma is where it is now with regard to what the North Carolina Supreme Court issued back in December versus what's happening around the state, which is virtually nothing. So we're kind of in a standoff, in my opinion, with a new law and still operating Internet sweepstakes parlors that are suggesting that they've changed their software and that actually meets the North Carolina Supreme Court ruling, which I think is questionable at best. We're still working with local law enforcement that is local beyond our police to get direction as to what the future may hold for those establishments. But I feel the delay in action is really only making the issue more and more gray. So at some point, I may come back to the council and ask for a resolution to suggest that all local agencies, including our local district attorney, our state attorney general, and all involved actually take action on that finding by the North Carolina Supreme Court and do what I think they can want to do in this state and take activity. That's not there yet. We're still trying to work through it, but I think we're getting close to that point. And so we'll move forward. There's some meetings taking place here in the next few days that we might get some more direction on that. On the Smithfield Crossings project, I know there's a request for some more detailed reporting. We've got that in your written report from myself, and there's a good summary there that Mr. Ember helped put together, talking about the work that was undertaken during January and the proposed work for February. I think it gives you a good bit of detail. I won't read that for you, but you can see there's a lot of activity on the storm drainage and the sewer line. Not much in the paving, primarily because of the weather. As you know, when the weather gets cold, you can't pave until it warms back up. So, but that was expected. Of course, they did not do much work in the road area. It was a little bit warmer before the Christmas season to avoid any kind of shopping delays. But a good bit of work going on. They're getting through it. So I think again the project is moving forward. Still has a ways to go, but it is moving forward.
Paul,
yes, sir.
Could I ask you a question to do with that? Where are we in the process with that? Have you had any conversation with any of the parties as to when they feel like this project could be complete?
I think now probably the best estimate, I would say probably early summer. Again, no other weather problems. It's gone from February, March, a few delays, more like now May, June. A few portions maybe even past that, and that's part of that's part of the issue. I think is some could be finished with a road improvement where you wouldn't even know they're still working on some other utility work that wouldn't slow you down. So I'd say right now, and I don't know if y'all talked about it today at the meeting or not later, Ms. Jimler, but last I heard was a mid-June, early July time frame. I don't think anything changed from today. And they're also hopeful that there'll be a pick up and get, maybe try and hurry it up a little bit too. So they have lost some time over the last 3 months. And some delays were legitimately outside of the contractor's control. We had some utility relocations that just took longer than they wanted.
It looks like it's going really, really slow, and I'm hearing is that they're doing all their hard work and once the paving, that's started, probably move pretty fast.
I think you're exactly right. You know, I think we all had hoped we could have done, but the utility relocation stopped that. And all had hoped that we could have got some of that pavement. Because when you see pavement, you're like, oh, that's done, it looks good. And before the weather got cold, that just didn't happen. The good news is that when they get all that done and they're doing the pavement, the paving is not going to take that long. You know, it's a fairly fast process with the pavement. So I think we're still okay.
Can I ask one thing there? Are we in any type of communications other than maybe our website or anything with the businesses as far as sending out any updates of where we are in any timeline? And the reason I ask is I do get asked that question quite often, and by some of the comments up here, I'm assuming that other council members do as well. And if not, can we look at maybe doing that somehow?
We could add something to our newsletter. I know that that I'll give a report at least once a month, if not twice a month, to our chamber at a meeting. And I'm pretty sure that they relay that in some of their correspondence with their members to get the word out. I can follow up on that with Rick and see if he's got a more formal way of getting that word out. Okay. I think would probably be the best mechanism to get that word out to those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And they're well represented. The businesses, especially in the outlet area, are well represented at those meetings typically at the chamber. Moving on, that is it. Again, I want to thank the council for its time at the retreat at the end of last week. I thought it was a good process for everyone, and again, I appreciate everyone's participation. I look forward to the report also. There are a few more announcements in the report that were placed in our newsletter at the last edition that went out over the weekend, I believe, and a few just announcements there. That's all I have.
I have a question on the financials. I looked through these things and I realized we're 7 months into the budget year, and I just sort of looked at percentages of where we are. There's one I didn't understand at all, and it's on page 160. And this is actually a revenue study. And Earl, you might know this from there. Sewer sales. So we're 1,503%. I know some of this going in front of me,
You're on page 6.
That can't be right.
3%.
Yeah. What page you go?
160. So our estimated revenue was $92,400. And it says revenue today at $1.3 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that can't be right. I mean, the actual the estimated revenue number can't be right. Okay. So
I'll have a problem.
Yeah. It'll be nice if it were that amount, but that sounds like it's probably a decimal point or a comma off on sewer sales. Instead of 19,400 is probably
The estimated, the area is in the estimated revenue. It says 92,400. It should be like 2 million or something. So that's where the percentage is off.
Anybody have any other matters before the council? Any comments?
Nice job.
Thank you all for being here. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Stand adjourned.